Welcome back to the channel, guys. I have another just quick cybersecurity focused concept for you. Pretty sure this is really exclusively for InfoSec slash CyberSec. So this one should be pretty quick. It's not very difficult of a concept. This one favors more of the red team side of things, I would say. So basically the hackers, the ethical hackers and those type of people. This is more of a red team concept. So let's just go ahead and get into it. Shouldn't be that long of a video. We're going to touch on the concept of threat hunting, which the name kind of gives it away. But in the world of cybersecurity, you have a bunch of different threats that already exist in the wild, which is just the general internet. So sometimes it's called the wild. You have a lot of threats that not only are already there that you've studied, maybe that you've encountered. If you're part of an incident response team that you've been called in to hurry up and implement solutions because your corporate network has been hacked and people are trying to take out information, confidential information from your company servers and things. And you need to stop that process before it happens at all, or it's already started happening and you need to reduce and mitigate the damage as much as possible. Threat hunting is meant to be a part of that particular mindset of people who actually get hands-on when it comes to mitigating, preventing, and resolving security breaches and security issues. The whole thing is you're basically being proactive, going to different computer networks, anywhere from host devices to computer networks at large, and you're specifically looking for evidence of someone trying to breach your corporate network, or maybe someone already has, and you can patch the system before someone truly takes advantage of it, assuming they haven't actually started stealing corporate data, personal information, and stuff like that already. Because sometimes what will happen is, these threat actors, these hackers, hacktivists and people, they'll get access to the network, but they won't make themselves known. It depends on what type of threat actor they are. You're essentially Kraven the Hunter. For those who know him, the Spider-Man villain, you're essentially Kraven the Hunter. You make it a point to go out into the world specifically to find, that issue, the challenge, your target, the prey that, he's more like a trophy hunter. So it's more ego based on his side. I wouldn't, be surprised if there were some red teamers that kind of had that mentality about it. But either way, you're making a point to go out and to find those potential issues and holes in your security, in your computer network, in your corporate network, and patch them before any major damage has been done. And if you spot that someone's already managed to make their way in, you kick them out so that they can't do any damage or any further damage than they've potentially done. So when it comes to the concept of threat hunting, what is the major benefit of it? And I want to focus on three main points that make threat hunting particularly important. First is, and I kind of already gave it up, evolving threats. So you already have different threats. You have DDoS attacks, DOS attacks, which have been, or man-in-the-middle attacks, which have been rebranded into on-path attacks. Like VoIP use artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence can be used to mimic different people's voices, to perform social engineering attacks, to extrapolate personal information so that you can get credentials to say someone's account for their network billing, their like Wi-Fi billing or medical information and stuff like that. All that stuff. And the thing is, in that AI example for vishing, voice phishing or vishing, pretending to be somebody over a call, so that you can get their personal information by way of social engineering, which is essentially manipulating different people to get information out of them that they may or may not realize they're not supposed to give up. With artificial intelligence being implemented into that type of attack, that speaks to my first point, which is evolving threats. Because vishing was already a thing, but now with artificial intelligence being implemented into it, it's introduced another layer to the attack that cyber professionals have to start looking out for. Before, people would have to call like with their regular voice, or maybe with a masker if they tried it, but I would imagine that would be a dead giveaway off top. So they probably would call with a regular voice claiming to be somebody, because chances are if someone claims, hey, I'm trying to get access to my Wi-Fi account, my banking account, my phone, like cell phone account, medical records, where the case is, chances are the person you're speaking to on the other end doesn't know what you actually sound like. So there's no real reason to hide and mask your voice more times than not. But now people have found a way to even do that. Even if we switch to another quick example, plagiarism and using technology for essays and stuff in school has always been a thing. I done it. I'm sure most other people in grade school have done it. And now with AI, grade schoolers these days are using AI to write their essays for them, and they don't put any real thought into them. So now, I guess you can say a version of threat hunting, even though it doesn't pertain to InfoSec. Different school districts and departments have implemented technologies that make it so that they can easily tell when you upload your essays online, because kids, they don't even have to physically turn in essays no more. When they upload them online, there are technologies like on their websites and their portals that can scan it and tell whether or not you used AI to write your essay. You know, even on the lower level, that's kind of like that version of things are evolving. Like viruses, computer viruses can literally mutate over time. And that's what makes InfoSec or CyberSec potentially like economy proof or bulletproof as a profession, because the threats that we understand, that we read about, and that you encounter on incident response and stuff like that, it's not just going to stop there. Like these threat actors are going to continuously evolve. Threat hunting allows people to stay extra vigilant, you know, to never get comfortable with what they think they know, and you constantly have to learn. That's why being up on like the news and evolving technologies and different attacks in different parts of the world, usually if you work in InfoSec and cyber, that's like mandatory, because you don't know when that attack might come for you in your corporate life. You might be the reason it happens, which could be the reason like you might get in trouble at work. So it's just best to stay on your toes. One particular reason that I wanted to bring up, because you got a bunch of different threat actors, but there's a particular group of threat actors known as APTs, or Advanced Persistent Threats. And these are basically enemy governments, like different governments and different like shadow companies, if you will, that like kind of like when I said earlier, like someone may have already hacked their way into your corporate network, but they're kind of just lingering there. They haven't done anything yet. They may have over time snuck out some data here and there, but they have not truly made their presence known. The only way, or the main way that you found them, was to go look for them. And those would be APTs. Again, different governments and different like majorly funded organizations, private shadow organizations that can get into your corporate networks, but they don't necessarily make their presence known right away. They're more, or at least a key part of their presence is reconnaissance. They kind of keep an eye out for the data and take their time sorting through it to see what they want to extrapolate out of the corporate network. Or they may just be like peeping toms, where they may not necessarily take anything out, but they may do something as dangerous as, for example, use some of the information that they come across in the corporate network and then use it to skew the views and say political elections. We're in election year. So this would be prime time for a lot of enemy governments with their tech savvy people to find their way into key corporations and government entities on America's side and kind of just linger and take their time looking around, poking around, you know, probing the edges to see what, you know, kind of information can we find about the American government, the American economy, and key personnel and stuff like that. What can we find? And then introduce that information, you know, in some version to the world, not even just American citizens, but to the world, that will skew our view to the point it'll affect how we vote in our elections. APTs, or Advanced Persistent Threats, are very good at that. Even on social media, they're very good at using that tool to skew votes or like perception in election year. So that's a particular one I wanted to highlight. Another time is, and again, it touches on these particular threats like lingering around. They want to reduce dwell time, which is self-explanatory. So again, not all threats instantly break into a corporate network and they just start breaking stuff and you instantly know they're there. A good amount of the time, some of these people will be in your corporate network and they're just chilling. They're waiting for the right time to strike, whether, again, election year, whether it's holiday season when most people are supposed to be logged off. Again, taking their time to kind of move data out bit by bit, whatever the case is, but it all requires them to kind of just lay back, kick their feet up for a time, whether it's weeks, months, maybe even years, you know, slowly play at it until it's time to truly rear the ugly head. And usually by that time in that type of situation, it's already too late. So threat acting, or rather threat hunting, is meant to specifically go for those entities that are doing that, because if we're just chilling on our end, on the, you know, the American side or the defensive side, whatever, and we're not being proactive about it, we're kind of inviting that type of trouble to the point where, again, by the time we even realize this was a threat, we don't really know what to do. So those are the three key things I wanted to touch on. They're meant to pay attention to evolving threats. You can't get comfortable with the current versions of DDoS attacks, phishing, social engineering, different techniques that we may know of either because you actually put it to practice in your daily life, because your internal security team makes you train on it. Mine just did that with my job like a week or two ago. Had to do some training on that. Or again, if you're on an incident response team, either way, you can't get comfortable just with what certain things are defined as and what they look like, because these things are constantly changing. That's what makes cybersecurity and that skill set lucrative, not only on the legal side of it, but even on the illegal side of it. Specifically, wanted to call out APTs, or advanced persistent threats, which essentially are governments, but also other just majorly funded and bankrolled organizations that are meant to get into our computer networks, our corporate networks, government or not, and kind of just linger and kick their feet up and take their time extrapolating certain data, bits of data, and moving it out, or even just taking advantage of what they see, and then they can implement other plans from there to mess stuff up. And then the last one I wanted to highlight was reducing dwell time, which again pretty much highlights APTs and their natural function of how they're usually meant to kind of get into a system, but also just stay there for a time over months, if not years, before they really make their presence known. Or maybe they never do, and they just wait until you actually manage to find them. Just wanted to cover the service level concept there. There's definitely more to this when you dig deeper into it. So if that's something you want me to cover, go ahead, let me know in the comment section below. But I'll go ahead and leave that here, guys. It's a very important concept to understand, whether you put it to use in your day-to-day work life or not.